everyone. It's fall, y'all. Let's make some easy fall melt and pour soaps. These are pretty easy. They're not the easiest soaps in the world. They're not just melt, pour it in the mold, and then you're done, or melt, add color, add fragrance, and then you're done. That's the easiest soap. This is a close second, though. It's not hard. It just takes a little layering and just paying attention to your temperatures, which is one of the first things you should learn as a new soap maker, in my humble opinion. If you're new, if you're not new, these are just easy to throw together and look gorgeous. They still look very impressive and decorative. They'll look lovely on your at your sink if you wanted something really pretty. These fit the bill. Right here, I'm just mixing colors. I am doing them in my little tiny cups. These are little 3.4 ounce or 100-gram cups, and they're really handy. They are made of silicone, so they are flexible, um, which gives you a lot of leeway in what you can do in them and with them. Um, I normally don't add fragrance into those, and I can't even remember why I did, but I added occasionally here. You'll see I add like 2 or 3 drops, and I know it's below what I could have added because I did do the math for that. Um, so anyway, I don't remember what the point was because I fragranced the whole thing very lightly. I don't know if I just decided that the embeds needed more. I don't know. Anyway, let's make soaps. So of course you saw the soap I'm using is Crystal Clear by Crystal Premium Crystal Clear by Wholesale Supplies Plus, not affiliated with them, just like their stuff. You could use whatever of the clearest soap you can find. Although for this part, you don't really need the clearest soap. You could use just a soap that's clear or transparent. You could use even one of the aloe soaps or something that just doesn't always have a great clarity to it. Um, but it does need to be translucent at least so you can see the mica color. The clearer it is, the better representation of that color of mica you get. But as you see here, I started off with some golden pumpkins. Uh, it seems like a little bit of an odd color to make a pumpkin, even though gourds come in a variety of colors. But they look really beautiful when they're unmolded. I promise you'll see that fairly soon because I just make these. You're not going to sit around and wait for them to dry. But this mold, to me, is the star of the show for these soaps. That and the glitter, which we'll talk about in a minute when we get to that point. But I just saw this mold on Amazon. I will put the link. I don't know if they're still available, but man, was it cute. I thought I don't know what really, other than the fact that I didn't see a lot of um there aren't many acorn molds, and not especially not ones I liked, and I did like these, so I thought they were kinda cool, but I really fell in love with the shapes of the pumpkins. I don't know why. They're each unique, and they're really cool looking. So and the leaves are pretty. I wasn't at first wasn't a big fan of the veins in the leaves. I was gonna do something a little different with that, but I liked them once they came out, so I didn't mess with it. Um, you could do once they come out of the mold and they have like little the veins, and they're indented, so when you're looking at it, it's like, they're indented. So you could take a little bit of another color and pour that in there and then wipe it off, or scrape it off or something if you wanted a two-tone leaf that way, if you wanted to highlight the veins. You also could brush a little bit of mica over the top, if you wanted to, and then the area of the veins will not have the mica. But I liked the way the leaves came out as is. You can also swirl them. I didn't show it on here, but in molds like this, you can pour 2 colors at once, and as long as if it's not heavily loaded with some kind of with titanium dioxide or a color that will sink more than the others, and as long as the temperature is fairly low, if you pour them at the same time, you can get a real easy little swirled embed, which are swirled embeds are really fun to make. Maybe I'll do a whole video on those at some point because they really can add some uniqueness to your soaps and make them even more artistic than they already are. You of course the I you know you saw the colors that I put up there, hopefully, but you can use any variety of fall colors you want. What one thing I'd like to say is to keep in mind you want a background color for these as well. So I wanted to use all the same background color for these, but you could vary it if you wanted to, so that the background color, so that each embed stands out from its background color. I ended up I ended up going with a brown, dark brown for the background, and I think all of the embeds stood out enough from it. I might have wanted something a little bit different for the leaves, but they still came out. I mean, I'm just getting picky because you can see them quite well. Um, but if you wanted to, you could make them stand out a little bit more by maybe doing the gold background or even more of an orangish kind of background. I didn't end up using orange in this color palette, and I kind of wanted to, or at least maybe a burnt orange, like mix some pumpkin head orange in with that the angry rose that you're pouring in there right now. You'd have a really nice burnt orange, or a little bit of brown in with the orange can also do the same thing, even the copper. But I didn't end up doing that. So you got what you got, and I was really happy with them. So I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing out other things you could do to make them a little different because that's what creative people do. You think of all the variety of different things you could do. And here is your tall, dark, and handsome. I do believe there was a little bit of copper at the bottom of this um, little thing. What do you call it? Little cup. So there might have been either copper or gold, one of the two. There might have been a little bit of it, it might have been a little lighter than the normal tall, dark, and handsome. You could also use, if you wanted the brown to be lighter on purpose, you could use Sexy Stranger on a Train, which is one of my favorite browns. It's really beautiful brown, but I went a little darker with this one. And I was very, like I said, very pleased with the results. One of the reasons I also wanted a darker background is because you'll see in just a moment I add a tiny bit of glitter to my clear. And you got to be careful with glitter. I wanted the glitter to show up, so that's a dark background helps that to happen. But it's so easy in a soap like this to add way, way, way too much glitter. I'm pouring kind of a little one off here, just a little bit of clear that I had left with an extra embed I had. I knew that embed would fit in this little tiny oval mold from Makesy, but I should have added a little glitter. I was a little disappointed that I didn't. It came out very, very pretty. And it's a little harder here. As you see, I'm putting this in upside down because the front is a little bit domed. So that's which is the bottom of the mold. It's a little domed, which means that the bottom is going to be the front. And whenever you're doing that, the if you have glitter, it tends to want to sink if you're not careful with the temperature you add. So that to be where you could have ended up with a whole bunch of glitter at the front hiding the leaf. But I didn't put glitter, so I didn't worry about it. But that's something to keep in mind with the mold and the soaps I'm doing here. I'm doing them bottom upward. So the bottom is the actual bottom of the soap, and what you see is what you get. It's straight up looking at you, and that's what it's going to be. I like to do them that way not only because I can see what I'm doing and I can make sure there's no hidden bubbles or weird things that you can't see when everything is upside down. I do sometimes on purpose do things the other direction if the mold calls for it, but when I can, I like to do them right side up. And with this one, I do that, not the little leaf you see there, but with the rest of them, that which is the main part, that, like I said, this was kind of a pour off, and I wanted to see this, to test this little mold. But I want you to watch. I put my fragrance oil in at it was at 1%. Um I want you to see here the amount of glitter I add. And the kind of glitter is really a sparkling mica. It's really not a true glitter, but you'll see the effect at the end. It acts as a true glitter. Now that's all I add. Oh, okay, no, I went back a little bit. But actually all I did was tap off the little stick there. There's so little glitter in here. And this is for 4 soaps. That's enough glitter for 4 soaps, enough glitter and soap. And you'll see it when I first pour, and you'll see it as I'm adding it, but wait to the end when we do the close-ups and you really get to see the glitter sparkle and shine. It's incredible. If I had added any more, it would have been too much, and it would have been too busy or kind of hidden, kind of hide the leaves a little. Or, I mean, you probably could have gotten away with a little bit more, but I really, really liked the amount I added for these, and I think it was just the right amount. You can see it right now already with the first layer I pour is probably not even a 16th of an inch. I mean, it's literally just enough to reach the edges when you spray and to glue your soap down. Now, you could have, with these embeds, because they're kind of thick. I didn't really show them from the side, but they're a good thick embed. They're very substantial. You could have probably put this in with the brown layer and let it set up there that way. I just didn't do it because I'm used to using smaller embeds where I don't want to cover them up too much. I don't like them to be far away from the top unless it's got many layers to it, and I have, various, like a landscape soap, or I have a background to it, and then a tree, and then something else, and then something else. So, I like it. If it's up close to the clear, then, you see it really well. I do use a clear where you can see it really well anyway if I'd put it at the bottom, but that's just my thought with embeds is, you know, if I'm just adding one embed, I don't want it to be at the very back. I like it to be kind of all throughout or at the middle, or what have you. So notice, please, as I'm pouring, that I'm pouring in a circle around the embed. And I'm doing this while it's hot. It isn't super hot. It was really hot when I first poured. It was about 130 when I poured that first, maybe 132, as I poured the first little layer of clear, because I wanted it has to be able to stick to that brown layer. And then I as I add a little bit more, it was cooler. So as I added the rest of the clear around, it was about 127, I think I showed you. And I'm adding it very slowly. I'm just adding a tiny trickle around each embed. So I'm aiming for the brown, not aiming, because I don't want to melt my embed, and you probably don't want to melt your embed either. As it starts to cool, it will start to thicken, and I believe I start showing you. I'll show you the temperature it gets if I didn't already just do that. It got quite low, and I just kept pouring. Well, when it gets to be below the melting point, you can pour a lot more at a time. You don't have to worry so much. But I do, when it's hot, I pour a little bit at a time, not directly on the embed, and I spritz it right away with a very fine mister. If you use a fine mister, you're not going to end up with too much alcohol unless you spray it like 30 times. But just 1 or 2 spritzes, um, in as you're layering like this, fluid layering, which, it's just, you're not pouring it, you're not dumping it all at once. If you were to pour it in at 127 all at once, you could very likely melt, or at least partially melt, your embed. That means you might have little, you know, it's not going to completely melt it to where it's unrecognizable, but you might have some gold mica drifting off of your pumpkin. Oh yeah, there you see. It's 117 when I start pouring it more directly onto the embed, because it's not. There's no way at 117 with a crafter's choice that it's going to melt the embed. Each person's soap or each brand of soap has a different melting point, please, 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 please get to know that. Um, if you can't find it anywhere on your packaging, call the manufacturer. It is so, so important. Above the melting point is going to make things stick, but might make them melt. Yeah, that's why you just pour a tiny, tiny bit. Below the melting point, you're safe to pour more and cover the embed and not worry so much about it. But if you don't know where the melting point is, it's kind of hard to do. um, please get to know your favorite bases melting points, and that's honestly, that's one of the most important tips I can give you. But especially for soaps like this, or with any soap with an embed, or any swirl soap, or pretty much any soap that isn't just dump it in a mold. Um, so okay, yeah, here it is. So see, it's pretty, it's okay, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of glitter in there. But it's a fine soap, and it smells like spiced cranberry. So it smells very fall-like, and it would make a lovely little um, hand soap in your bathroom at Thanksgiving time, or even now. Heck, it's fall. Um, so ignore all the other things you see. You're seeing all kinds of sneak peeks. I intended to cover all that up, but I just ended up not worrying about it because you're gonna see them soon anyway. But these, I'm pulling them out, and I'm gonna show you kind of. I'll spray them off so you can see down to the bottom and of this. One of the reasons I started doing these soaps face up is because it's a matte finish bottom, and so the sides and the bottom, if I'm not spraying them, which the bottom doesn't really matter in this soap, but um, the sides will be very matte until you spray it with alcohol. But um, anyway, so you're seeing me spray them so you can see all the way down to the bottom and get an idea. But I do bring them up a little closer, and when I do, I want you to take a look at the glitter. It is so pretty. You can already see it, I'm sure, kind of twinkling around there, uh, keeping in mind that I'm not looking at the same thing you are, but I bring them up close and personal in a minute, and you will see how pretty. You might see a couple of spots that look, I have a little bit of a strand or so of soap going across because I let it get a little too thick when I was pouring it at the end there. I probably should have popped it in the microwave for like 10 seconds, but I didn't. So there may be one or two that show a little strand, but I don't think it hurt anything. I think I even was able to peel one of them off, but I didn't do it before this. I did it off camera, so didn't really get to show it to you without it. But if you see that, it is just soap. So here we go up close. There it was. You kind of see it catching in the light. That's at least one of them. Look at that glitter. Look how pretty. You saw the amount I added. It wasn't even a 16th of a teaspoon. I don't typically I kind of I don't typically measure my mica, but I kind of guesstimate. It was so tiny such a tiny amount. I can't even um, fathom how to measure it. But I basically almost just stuck that stick in and tapped it on the side, and what I got, I stuck with. So I sure hope you got something from this. I love fall, and I love fall decorations, and I love fall smells, and I hope that you can make some easy fall embed soaps with me, whether it's with this mold or something else. There's plenty out there. Thank you so much. Bye.